Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Wilhelm Scream, and welcome back to the channel for more Destiny 2 news and intel. And this video is going to be a bit of a recap on a few things going on this week, some of which I've talked about before, some of which are new, and what can I say? At the moment, the exploits are the thing that has me playing this game most of all. And, well, if you've watched my channel for very long, you know a good glitch is all I need to spend many hours, probably more than I should, farming out activities. And at the moment, there is a plethora of great glitches, and I really hope Bungie doesn't patch any of these. Unfortunately, I think one might be patched, maybe even by the time you're watching this, though at the time I recorded this, which is contemporaneous of the time you might be watching it, probably within an hour or so, as I usually like to record these videos around the time that I post them, just so all the information is up to date as possible. They haven't patched it yet, so you might still be able to use this, but in any case, one is definitely not getting patched today. And in both cases, they will give you a ton of power when it comes to farming out endgame activities or just getting high tier runs so that you can get high tier armor or more power if you're on the grind to 550. I would say if you are at 450, using both of these glitches in tandem will certainly allow you to farm anything above 500, maybe not quite 550, but certainly up to, I would say, 520. So at least a 70 power deficit. If you know what you're doing and build your character right, also while using either one or both of these glitches, if they are available at the time of viewing this, you could probably farm at a negative 100 deficit. Especially with backup, if you decide not to do solo runs. But if you are a solo player, both of these things will really come in very, very handy. We'll also talk about a few other things going on in the game at the moment that I think deserve a mention as far as activities are concerned. And I think events, because we've had a lot of them since the launch of Edge of Fate, have sort of flown under the radar and actually had to best utilize them. And of course we have Iron Banner for the first time since the launch of Edge of Fate back this week. There was also another sub-event last week, which some people might have missed, as it was sort of something running parallel to the launch of Ashen Iron. And this week, that event has turned into Iron Banner. But in both cases, including the Arms Week event, which we had in the past, or the Solstice event, these things can be utilized best, especially if you can farm them on higher level difficulties or get at least an A grade reward, by giving you +2 to whatever the allotted or supposed tier of armor that you're supposed to be getting for a given reward tier, say A or B+. So a B+ would essentially be dropping 5 tier armor and weapons if you do so during the event or play the event activity. And like I said, this week that is Iron Banner. So we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more towards the end of the video, though what really needs to be said. But in any case, let's get into the glitches. So if you're on the road to 550, which most people are, I only have, I think, 2 people on my friends list who are even at 500, maybe a little bit above, but most people are hovering probably around that 450 to 475 range, if not maybe a little bit lower. I do have a lot of friends who are still in the 300 range. Now this is going to come in really handy for them. So of course we are talking about the Sturm glitch, as well as the sword glitch. This is the lightweight frame sword glitch. Now the lightweight frame sword glitch, as I said, might be getting patched today. At least Bungie had said that it was going to get patched today, though I really feel like they shouldn't. And I'd be curious to see if people think that they should just leave these exploits in the game. I mean, I don't think they're really hurting anybody. They're just allowing people to do activities that maybe they wouldn't be able to otherwise. And you really have to know how to use them. There is, of course, trial and error to that, and some people it just won't be available to. For example, if you are not able to pull a Quick Fang from the collections, which is the go-to sword for this particular glitch, you can craft a gold tusk, which would involve you going to the crafting table. And I've already heard many friends say that they are just waiting to get a few more deep sight harmonizers, which are a little bit harder to come by these days. You can get them from Xur, just so they could craft the gold tusk so that they can do the sword glitch. Now, of course, this will probably be patched by the time that actually is available. Of course, I think it might be patched either today, but probably at least by next week. So maybe if they don't patch it over the weekend and Xur happens to sell some deep sight harmonizers, though you need 5, maybe they'd be able to do it. But as I was thinking about it, I realized that that is exactly what Bungie should want people doing. Looking forward to things that will be happening in a week or so, not because they're the only things to do, but because they will be able to finalize their progression through that process. So essentially playing to get the thing that they want, ultimately to complete whatever build it is. And in this case, it's just a super broken, glitchy one. Now, if that is, of course, fixed by the time you're watching this, the go-to thing to use at the moment is the Sturm. You can actually farm the Drang at the moment, which is one of the sidearms that you can use in order to get the, or proc the Together Forever trait, which is what gives Sturm the Sturm Overcharge, which then essentially makes you the ability spam beast. So if you're doing that, definitely pair it with a lot of ability spam on your build, because you won't be actually using the Sturm, you'll just be throwing out as many grenades or powered melees or using your class ability, or if you're running prismatic, as much as possible. So make sure to pair it well with those things while we have them. Now, of course, you don't need the Together Forever actually to have this ability. That perk, though it's supposed to be unique and one of the few things that actually pairs with Sturm, allowing you to get this incredible damage buff, which remember is 4 times whatever any ability would be doing normally. That includes your super. You can actually just use any sidearm in the game. So any sidearm in the energy slot will work. The Lotus Eater has been a go-to of mine now, even though it's not a new weapon. It is just absolutely incredible, especially when you have destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace like mine does. But you can also, of course, use, as I said, the Drang, which is available to farm today, or possibly the new solar sidearm, or maybe even some of the older solar sidearms. But the rocket sidearms are clearly the favorites. But of course, any sidearm will work, so if you don't have a rocket sidearm, shouldn't matter too much, as even if you use this with Drang, it might actually be better paired if you're going into an activity where you won't have any starting ammo, because essentially in that case you will still have a primary, and of course, like I said, once you switch to the Sturm, you're not actually going to be using it. You're just going to be holding it while you go into max ability spam mode. So use these things while you can, as they will allow you to farm out activities way higher than you normally would, and essentially allow you to be at a 500 level even if you have a negative 50 deficit. So if you're at 450, you're essentially at 500 while you have the Sturm equipped, and especially if you are still using the Quick Fang sword glitch. For those of you who haven't seen something on this yet, though I'm sure most people have, just remember, if you're still able to use it at the time you watch this, make sure you don't have any heavy ammo. You have to make sure you have no ammo at the time of using it, and then jump and do the light attack. Not the heavy attack, the light attack. That will essentially do 10 times the damage that it's supposed to do. Now, that might actually be a little bit of a rough estimate, but in the case that I've seen, the heavy attack was essentially doing 1,700 damage with ammo, and the light attack with the glitch was doing about 23,000 damage with one hit. In some cases, I saw that go up to 30,000 damage. We were doing some runs of the current raid boss in the Desert Perpetual, the final boss, and we were able to pull off a very easy one phase with this, which makes me think that the reason that this will probably get patched sooner rather than later, especially in both cases, or at least in the case of the Sturm, maybe disabled, is we do have a new version of the raid, the challenge mode of the raid, coming up soon. So I'm sure most of these things will either be fixed before then, or they will be disabled for that. So I would just say use them to farm out maybe some higher tier armor from the raid, or do some of those challenges in the raid if you have a full raid team as soon as possible. And for the solo players, just use it to run higher level activities. You won't have to worry so much about getting an A, or if you're a little bit higher, maybe an A+ reward. You should be able to make short work of all the enemies, even if you're running at a -50 or even maybe a -60 deficit. -70 might run into some trouble, but I think you could probably make up that pairing it with a build that makes sense when using these two glitches. So that's going to be it for that info. Now, the thing that I also wanted to talk about was Iron Banner. Now, as I said, this is the first time we've had Iron Banner back, and I was sort of hoping that they were going to change the activity somewhat, maybe have a different playlist, or maybe re-enable power. I always thought that Iron Banner was way better when power was enabled. But doesn't seem to be the case. However, there is some amazing weapons available. If you missed it during Arms Week, the shotgun hand cannon, though you can get one from Trials of Osiris, but I believe the one from Arms Week is much, much better, is available. That with 1-2 punch essentially is giving you a primary secondary, so a primary energy weapon. So you don't really have to worry about ammo so much, because something like that with 1-2 punch is going to work almost as well as a shotgun with 1-2 punch. It is essentially a shotgun. I use it often in PvP. I don't know why, but I find that the one from Arms Week is better than the one from Trials of Osiris. You can let me know in the comment section down below whether or not you think so. But it just seems to have a little bit more aim assist, and maybe it's just the scope. I don't know. I find that it's easier to aim. But that is available, as well as the Trace Rifle, which was also available during Arms Week, both of which were amazing weapons. And like I said, if you can play a game of Iron Banner and get an A tier reward, because Iron Banner is the event, and those event engrams drop 2 tiers higher, if you were guaranteed a tier 3, you will probably get a tier 5. If you're guaranteed a tier 4, you'll definitely get a tier 5, and that's just the way it works. A lot of people have asked me, how is it that I have all tier 5 weapons and armor? It's because I played a lot of Solstice, and during that time, I was making sure to always get a score that allowed me to get an A tier reward, and those engrams would drop 2 tiers higher than what was allotted. So at tier 3, I was having a RNG chance, a very good RNG chance, on a tier 5. And if I was able to get a tier 4, it was almost a guaranteed tier 5. So though Iron Banner might not be your cup of tea, if you are looking for those tier 5 pieces of armor and weapons, it is by far the best thing to be farming this week. Also, we got free cosmetics, finally, for Iron Banner. And this was a big controversy, of course, as there was some cosmetics that people assumed were going to be the new Iron Banner cosmetics that you would get from just playing. Really cool Gladiator type set. Those, of course, were not the ones that we got from playing Iron Banner. Those were available, but only through the Eververse store. Upset a lot of people. But though that armor set has still not been made available through just playing Iron Banner, there has been another set added, which is original and not a reprise set like the one they were showing. So if you're looking for any of those new armor cosmetics, it's very rare that Bungie just kind of does something because we complained. Usually they do something when we're happy, like fixing a sword glitch that I think is absolutely amazing, or the ability spam glitch, like I'm sure they're going to do eventually. But in this case, they actually did listen, and they just gave us something for free that they otherwise wouldn't because, well, we complained. And I hope that that sort of real-time feedback, where they actually do something that we have complained about, or not doing something that we're not complaining about, becomes a more common practice. I will say they always are fairly quick to respond, but whether or not they're quick to actually do something about it, or whether or not they do the right thing, most people were complaining about the power grind at the launch of Ashen Iron. And I had to talk several people into reading the actual supposed update words that were talking about how the power grind was going to be increased, or how the scaling was going to work. Now, of course, that has been fixed, but what tends to happen is a lot of, I guess most people call it legalese. There's nothing specific. It is kept intentionally ambiguous. And I think that a lot of that is because they don't really know exactly what to do to please the current population still playing the game, and are kind of looking to us for guidance. But that being said, they will not take responsibility for anything they mess up. They don't want to. So they want to please you, but they don't want to take responsibility for messing up. So they will keep things very ambiguous, and when they do mess up, there's at least some plausible deniability. And that's just the way that it works. But things seem to be changing. I have been enjoying playing a lot this week, mostly because of these glitches. So really crossing my fingers that they don't get fixed anytime soon. And that maybe you can actually use the sword damage glitch at the time that you're seeing this for a little while longer, because it is just a lot of fun. But that's going to be it for all the information in today's video. Hopefully you found something in this video helpful. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell to post notifications so you never miss out on any future Destiny 2 content like this. You can also follow me on Instagram. It'll be linked in the description box down below. Remember, any of those things I just mentioned also enter you into any future giveaways on this channel. We do one every 1,000 subscribers, so you never want to miss out. When we reach 100,000 subscribers, which we are getting ever closer to, we'll be giving away a new console or a video card if you play on PC. If you've watched till this point in the video, you can also leave a hashtag Ashen Iron, or a hashtag Iron Banner, or a hashtag Edge of Fate in the comment section down below for another entry into the next giveaway for this video. Or, of course, you can leave a comment down below on any of the topics of discussion in today's video. Always interested to hear your feedback, but any one of those things will also give you another entry into the next giveaway, of course. And once more, I am Wilhelm Scream. Thanks so much for all the support as of late, and of course, we will see you next time.